I think the chief can do that. All right, it looks like we've got Leanne letting in a number of our, I see lots of people I recognize in the attendees list, and so we'll maybe give it another minute or two to continue to let people sign on. It's only 4:02 Miami time, as you know. That's pretty prompt. All right, Nancy, what do you think? You're muted.
Sorry, I was giving some people last minute links to join. Yeah, we've got 61 people already. So yeah, I think it's good to start. Before I hand over to Commissioner Higgins, I just wanted to let everybody know a little bit of housekeeping. We're using the Zoom webinar function. So all the attendees you don't have video and you don't have audio. What we would like you to do is use the Q&A function to write your questions that you'd like to submit to the panelists. And then when we get to the question and answer section, myself and Maggie will be moderating those questions and trying to get as many of them answered as we possibly can. We really encourage everybody to register with their own name. So hopefully you did that. We don't want to have people sharing links. We'd really like to see everybody who came. And plus we asked a couple of questions that we're gonna be talking about later as well. And then if you have a cell phone with just a number, I think we're gonna try to include your name as well, just so everybody can see who's in the room with us. So again, the chat function is disabled for participants. If you want to ask a question, please use the question and answer. And we are recording the session, and we will hopefully get time to answer as many questions as possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. Thanks, everyone. I'm Commissioner Eileen Higgins for District 5, which, as many of you know, represents a large portion of Miami Beach, lots of areas in the city of Miami, Little Havana, but especially for the topic we're here to talk about tonight, downtown and Brickell, where the heart of the Metromover system is. And I'm very happy that you all have joined, and so that we can be sharing ideas with our police departments, as well as with the administration at the county and the Department of Transportation and Public Works as riders of the mover. And I'm very grateful for both the county and the city for their participation this afternoon, so that we can get our questions asked. And so you'll find today that we have the police director from Miami-Dade County, Freddie Ramirez. We also have from the city of Miami, Assistant Chief Noel Morales. We have our deputy mayor, Jennifer Moon, many other members of the police department. And so hopefully we will have the people here that can answer our questions. Before we get started, many of you who signed up, we asked a question just to put this in perspective of when you ride the Metromover, have you ever felt unsafe? And more than half of the people that responded said that they had had a moment where they felt unsafe, and several shared stories. But what I thought we might want to do is also hear from one of you. So let me just tell you a little bit about why we're here tonight. I think many of you have seen on the news that in the past month we had 2 very violent attacks on the Metromover. And the mover is a crucial part of our transportation system, particularly for people that are attempting to be car-free and residents of downtown and Brickell. We use this on a regular basis. I use it on a regular basis, and everybody deserves to feel safe. But as I mentioned, we don't always feel safe. And as a downtown resident, I can tell you I've been on the Metromover and have felt unsafe. And as a matter of fact, had to call 911 one time due to an experience there. So I do think we have seen not enough attention paid to Metromover security. And so that is why we're here tonight, because the county has been very responsive this week to making some changes, and then it is up to me to listen to what you think also needs to be changed and make sure that those changes to security become permanent. We just for everyone here, as we were asking, what are some of the issues that you're encountering? Many of you mentioned that sometimes when we're entering the Metromover or on a platform or on a car, people have felt intimidated by some of the more aggressive homeless individuals. And so we recognize that as the City of Miami and the Homeless Trust continues to grapple with homelessness in downtown and Brickell, we need to focus tonight. We're not going to solve homelessness tonight, right? The DDA works a lot on it with their green shirts, but what we want to think about tonight is how can we feel more safe as we're riding on public transportation? So I'm gonna actually ask, I'm gonna ask Nancy, can you bring Fran up, or Leanne, can you bring Fran Fenton? And this would be another story that we've heard many times from residents about Fran's experience with the Metromover. I just would like to set the tone that this is not a one-off issue, that these things happen over and over again. Hi, Fran.
Hi, Commissioner. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can? You can hear okay? Okay. Okay. Thank you for asking about this. This incident happened, I believe, in 2013, so it's old, but it's kind of a recurring theme, I believe, here. The Perez Museum was having a free entrance to the museum if you arrived by Metromover. And this was on Memorial Day. And I think, I think it was 2013. It could have been later or whatever. I went up to the platform. There were a lot of people there, even though it was a holiday, because most of the people were going to the Perez Museum. When I boarded the train, there were a lot of people. It wasn't shoulder to shoulder or anything like that. It was just a nice crowd. Certainly would have felt safe because there were plenty of people around me. We took off, we started up Biscayne Boulevard, and when we got to about 11th Street, somewhere out of the crowd, there was a guy drinking a cocktail. He had a glass with ice cubes in it that he spun around, and I don't know what provoked this, but he came up to me and he took his hand back in a fist and went right for my face. Fortunately, he was so inebriated that he missed, and I was able to duck and get out of the way. And there was a Superman on the car who grabbed this guy by the arms and held him back. But both of the gentlemen were very strong. So it was really an even competition. I wasn't sure if this guy was going to be able to hold him or not. So it was kind of terrifying to see them struggle. We got to the Paris Museum and everybody got off, and I wanted to get off too, but the guy who had saved me pleaded with me to stay on because he was in an awkward situation. He needed me to witness the fact that he didn't provoke this. So I agreed to stay on. And as you probably know, the Metromover ride between Paris Museum and the Omni is one of the longest legs of the whole system. So I'm on this train with these two guys wrestling, and I'm not sure if they're gonna be under control or not. And we go, and it takes forever. And we finally get to the Omni. Meantime, I have pushed the red emergency button. And I don't know, no one seems to be responding. And I really can't tell if anyone knows what's going on. I believe there supposedly are cameras in the cars. So, but I don't know if anyone could see anything. I have no idea. When we got to Omni, some of the transit guards got on the train, and then we rode to the school board stop. And by then they had kind of gotten the situation under control. We got off and got on the platform and then discussed kind of what happened. The superhero didn't want anything to do with this at this point. He refused to give his name. He didn't want to talk about it. He didn't want to make a statement. He just wanted to disappear. I thanked him profusely, but I don't know who it was, and that was that. I actually was never physically injured, so I didn't think I had a case either. So when they asked me if I wanted to talk to police and press charges and all that, I really didn't understand. And I thought, what am I gonna, what can I say? The odd part though, was that the traffic guards or the traffic patrol policemen said, oh yeah, we know this guy. This, of course they had him, but they were talking to him. They pulled out their cell phones and showed me a picture of him. And they said, he's been banned from the Metromover. He's not allowed to ride the Metromover anymore, which was kind of belied by what I had just experienced. They ended up letting him go, and he crossed under the Metromover and sat on the steps and waited for me to board the return Metromover. So he came up and got on the platform. Unfortunately, the guards at that time were on guard, and they refused to let him board the train with me. So I got on, and I got at least one train ahead of him, and I just headed home and got rid of the clothes I was wearing that day, and I went out with a hat on the rest of the summer because I didn't know if he was stalking me. I didn't know if he recognized me. I don't know what caused this in the first place, but it was a little unnerving. So I don't know if this helps with your, you know, what you're trying to do or not, but I do think we need more protection for riders on the Metromover.
No, Fran, thanks so much for sharing this story, because I think it is, it's typical of what many riders experience, and that the police are not always called, right? And so you may not be getting the full story of how people feel intimidated or threatened or uncomfortable on the mover. And for our residents that are listening, I'm going to just turn it over a little bit to the administration so we can hear from our deputy mayors about some of the changes here, and particularly when our police director chats with us, he'll be able to explain, which is confusing to residents, right? When the person is outside the Metromover on the street, on the corner, it's a City of Miami police responsibility. The minute they go up the escalator, all of a sudden they're on county property. And so this close collaboration that has to happen between the city and the county is a crucial piece of the puzzle. And we're very grateful for the City of Miami Police to be with us this evening too. So I will turn it over. I don't know, Jennifer, would you like to start, or would Deputy Mayor Kemp like to start?
Commissioner, I will start if you don't mind. First of all, thank you, Commissioner Higgins, for calling this community meeting. And after the two attacks, our police, Miami Police, and our transit department have been collaborating to make some changes and to make the Metromover and the rail safer. Some of the things that we have done and are doing are, we've doubled the number of roving guards we have on the Metromover system. We've also increased the stationary guards, the guards at the stations, by 50%. our cameras, they were cameras that weren't watched in real time. Well, now they are. There'll be real-time feed to both our Rail Control Center and the Miami-Dade Police Department's Real-Time Crime Center. So that will obviously, the way it was before, you're reacting after the fact. When something happened, you find out who did it. That's not good enough. We want to be able to intervene. We're also testing some AI software that may help with security. But most importantly, we're collaborating, as you said, with the City of Miami Police Department. And they have established some co-jurisdictional relationships so that we don't have a clear line of demarcation where either department can enforce in either area. I'm going to ask Director Ramirez and then the Assistant Chief Morales to tell you about some of the steps they've taken while working together and also working with our Metro Rail security personnel. So Chief Ramirez, please take the conversation.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for putting this meeting together. First and foremost, I'd like to say that I was horrified by the videos that I saw, the 2 incidents that happened on the train. And it really troubles me that the community feels unsafe. And we're here today to make a commitment to make sure that we together, the City of Miami and ourselves, work together efficiently to make sure that our transit system is safe, along with Director Alice Bravo. What I can tell you we've done after the first horrible incident, first of all, we swiftly arrested the individual who committed that act. And I'd like to commend my police officers for doing a great job and really on both incidents, making an arrest swiftly and bringing justice to the families. Once that incident happened, I got priority response team personnel and other officers, and I put them onto the rail system to ride the trains. We augmented our patrols, and I have undercover operations that are going on, and we've been making several arrests to the point that on 2 occasions, my undercover sergeants were attacked by the vagrants. Obviously, they were arrested and the officers are okay, but that seems to be the big problem that we have right now. We've been working with the Homeless Trust, trying to get them services, because what you have is a blend between homelessness, mental illness, and narcotics use. And that was a situation with the second battery that occurred. That individual attacked that elderly male and took money out of his pocket. When we arrested him, he was in possession of narcotics. So obviously it's a sociological problem that we're dealing with, all of us together as a community. So to address that, we are working with the Homeless Trust. We're interfacing with the Allied Security. My personnel have met with Fred Taylor, our former director. We've established a daily and weekly communication protocol so that we know that we don't have redundancies in the security platforms and on the Metromover, that we have an efficient coverage and that we're communicating so that we can have a seamless approach. And in the long term, what I plan to do, which is budgeted previously, is in the future, I'd like to create a transit arm of our department, which is, this is out of our police operations section. So we have some budgeted positions that as our academies come through and they're ready to go out on the road, we're going to start augmenting it so we can start the beginning phases of a transit component to the Miami-Dade Police Department, so that we can have a long-term coverage of the train area, so we can ensure that security, jurisdictional response, and swift response to any crime, so that you don't have the fear that the crime is not reported to the police, that the incident happens and you go on your way. But we need to address that right away and address our protocol so we can ensure a long-term component of safety. And I really look forward to hearing the commentary from the citizens here so that we can sharpen our plan, and myself and the City of Miami and Transit will collaborate, and we're gonna have a good product for you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'll take it here, and thank you very much, Director, and thank you, Commissioner, for inviting the City of Miami to be part of this. And just like the Director said, I was horrified by the video that we saw, and I was saddened to hear that the residents did not feel safe when they provided the information about some of the other incidents that have been taking place on the actual Metromover. We are fortunate to have such a great relationship, Chief Colina and Director Ramirez. talk on a continual basis and figuring out ways that we can partnership and liaison with each department to ensure that incidents like this are quickly addressed. And we assure you that the City of Miami has no intention of allowing the artificial barrier of jurisdiction, whether it be on the bottom of the platform, on the actual Metromover, to stop us from helping out and keeping our residents safe. So in addition to the robust plan that Miami-Dade Police has put together, which is impressive and has been put together very quickly, we are also adding to combat crime, not only on the Metromover, but in the surrounding areas. We understand that there is other issues that are impacting the sense of safety that the community is feeling when they're riding the mover. So some of the steps that we've taken is we augmented some of our patrol officers and have directed now the officers that are assigned to Brickell downtown and Edgewater, which are the main stations where we have the Metromover issues, to go up and check the platform and not allow that distinction of jurisdiction to kind of prevent them from going up there and assisting the public and giving public safety assistance to any citizen that might be in need. We're also directing our officers to go ahead and jump on the mover and use it as a very convenient way of quickly digressing the net area and getting to another point as part of their daily patrols, whether they're on a bike or whether they're on foot patrol. So in addition, we are also going ahead and we're going to address some of the homeless issues surrounding the area. I know we really don't want to get into that controversial and deeply concerning issue of homelessness, but we do understand that there is an impact that the homeless population has with the sense of security that residents have when they're approaching the Metro station. So we're working together with our neighborhood enhancement teams and our other city departments to put together outreach operations to offer services to the homeless population and do some cleanups as well to go ahead and remove some of the blight that's impacting those areas. Thank you.
Thank you. I can turn it over to Deputy Mayor Moon, and maybe she can talk a little bit about the transit department's role in what's happening or what changes have been made this week.
Absolutely. Thank you for allowing me to participate. I've been discussing with the department some of the security changes that that we have already made, which is, as Deputy Mayor Kemp mentioned, doubling the number of security guards, roving security guards that we have, as well as increasing the number of posts that will be manned by security guards. And I think the most important thing is actually that the cameras that are on the cars will now be in real time, so that if an incident is occurring and the people who are involved can't necessarily alert one of the police officers or another emergency personnel, that somebody will see that and be able to address the situation as soon as possible. I think that is the thing that will make the biggest difference in the safety of the Metromover.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Moon, while I have you there, one of the things that I realized this week was the contract. And by the way, I mean, I just speak as a resident here. When I am on the mover and we do have one of the allied security guards there, they're always polite, they look professional, and I do feel better seeing them, whether they're riding the train or at the station. But I did not realize that they are mostly communicating with the Department of Transportation and Public Works. They did not have a direct connection to the police department, but it sounds as if that has shifted this week as well. Can you just confirm that for everybody?
Yes, we want to make sure that the communication is occurring as quickly as possible to the folks that can address the problem right away.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. This is a public safety issue, and that our trained professionals, our police department, that are the folks that keep us safe, have that direct line of communication, whether or not the contractual budget is somewhere else, to coordinate that. So I just wanted to make sure that that also was happening. I am going to quickly, my team wants to just sort of do a little poll. And so you may see, for those of you that are participating, some questions about how you use the mover. Is this something you're using on a daily basis? And then also, how have you reported anytime you felt unsafe? Have you ever gone to the point of reporting it to the police? Just so that at the end of this meeting, we have a sense of, you know, of how often is this happening? Yeah, nobody feels compelled to call the police because it seems like a weekly occurrence. And then while you all are doing that, to the team from the county, I'd like to bring on two spokespeople. Oh, Alice, I see Alice. Alice, I forgot. Let's let our Director of Transportation and Public Works give a little update. Thanks, Alice.
Thank you, Commissioner, and really thank you for setting up this meeting. You know, to us, the transit and the Metromover downtown is such an important piece of mobility and the urban landscape, and we want everyone to feel safe. A lot of the measures that both deputy mayors talked about, you know, that was all put together immediately after the Sunday incident. We want people to see such a presence on the system that no one dares to do anything like this ever again. We want people to feel safe. We want them, not only are we now watching the cameras at our control center, but the police is also going to watch those cameras. And we're beta testing that analytical software to detect incidents. So an alarm goes off when something like this happens. We're beta testing that on Monday. So this is something we've taken very, very seriously. And again, the goal is to have a presence so no one dares do anything like this again. You know, we have our app, Go Miami-Dade, with the ability to discreetly report something, because obviously pressing the push button and calling for help is an overt action and would draw attention. So we want to remind people that the app feature is there as well to discreetly send us a message, that we have controllers watching the cameras, and these messages pop on the screen when someone texts us through that app. So to underscore the story at the beginning, we need everybody that sees or experiences anything to report it, because that's the way we can really get a handle on all the issues we have to deal with. So again, thank you for setting this meeting up.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Director. Okay, so let me introduce to those of you from the county and city teams who may not know Amal Kabbani. She is the president of the Downtown Neighbors Alliance and has been active either as the president or on the board for many years. And I know Amal can share the perspective of the sort of downtown side of the river. And then we'll bring on Abby Ape to talk more about the Brickell side and give kind of a summary of the residents' perspectives. Amal, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you, Commissioner. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Unfortunately, I'm living a deja vu. 4 years ago to this day, an attack on Mr. Reno Starks, a resident of Edgewater, took place on the Omni-Loop mover. It was a particularly horrific and appalling incident because Mr. Starks suffers from a health condition that limits his mobility and thus his ability to defend himself. 4 years ago, and through the DDA, I got an opportunity to meet with Director Alice Bravo, who put me in touch with the Dade Police Department. And I do remember walking to Government Center with Mr. Starks, sitting with the Dade Police there, and they promised enforcement, which they did. And I myself can attest to the fact that we have seen back then remarkable improvements. But then everything seems to miraculously stop when things work. Why do we drop the ball? Why is it necessary to face a near death or death incident to put the measures to prevent things from happening again? Where's the accountability? And it's not just about the feeling of safety, it's about being safe. The moment you have to use a buzzer, or you have to call, or you have to use an app, it's already too late. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amal. I remember the days of that very beefed up security. So you'll be happy to know that one of the items my office is working on legislatively, which will be at committee in the next, I guess committee's 2 weeks from now, but basically says there has to be a plan presented for what security at these stations can be, and should anyone decide to reduce that level of service, it has to come back to the board for approval, so that it can't be done administratively. So we never can have these ups and downs unless the commission sees the need to change it. So Abby, I see you on here. I think your son is too. How's he? Well, for everyone that doesn't know, Abby Apishi is the Director of Community Outreach for the Brickell Homeowners Association. So Abby, give us some thoughts on what's happening or what the Brickell Homeowners Associations are feeling these days about Metromover.
Absolutely. You just heard my son, and I have a 6-month-old as well as an 8-year-old. And there are a lot of young families in Brickell who are concerned, and actually quite a few who are moving out of the area because safety has become a huge concern. But first of all, thank you all for serving our community. I'm so thankful for the swift measures that have been handled, that have been taking place, and how you guys have handled this. Chief Morales, you're absolutely right. Addressing the homelessness issue is a critical issue we cannot ignore. So thank you for your efforts when it comes to that. And as I mentioned, a lot of young families with children are highly concerned about the safety overall in Brickell, but of course, when it comes to the Metromover. Commissioner Eileen, you mentioned you mentioned how and if we've tried to report in the past. And personally, I have tried to report in the past. And so when I do call 911, they tell me, please hold, let me get you to the right department. And so in those minutes where I am holding, the situation ends, everyone moves forward, and you're like, well, I guess I'll hang up. And so here we are waiting, and minutes are passing when things could escalate. Thankfully, in my situation, things have not escalated, but that is a major concern, right? And something that we need to figure out on the back end. Ms. Bravo mentioned a crime reporting app, which a lot of residents are not aware of. So I think starting a campaign to inform and educate residents of the resources that are available to them would be a good start. Overall, residents are concerned, very, very much so, but I am a little bit more comforted and at ease to hear of the safety measures that are happening. Personally, I will not ride the Metromover again until I see a longer plan of safety, right? If we can continue this, all these safety measures in 6 months, if this continues, I think it will put a lot of residents at ease. Thank you again for organizing this.
Thanks, Abby. I too, on my 911 call, which was, I too was shuffled back and forth. But I did discuss with Director Ramirez, because actually I discussed also with the previous chief, that 911 needs to just take the information, the figuring out, do they call City of Miami Police or they call Miami-Dade Police? We as riders don't care. We just need somebody to know that we're in trouble. So I know that that is one of the sort of cross-jurisdictional areas of work that both of the, I see Chief Morales nodding his head. So I think we've made some progress on improving 911 for that, but I don't know, do either of the chiefs want to comment on that?
Commissioner, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, when there's an emergency happen and a citizen picks up the phone and dials 911, they really don't care who's coming, as long as somebody's coming to help. And we're working hard with the county to be able to make that transition a little more seamless. and make sure that we take that information, and cooperation is what's going to be the key. To be able to have that live feed into the real-time crime center of the county, they will have the ability to contact our real-time crime center and be able to have units there if the county is a little further away, to have our units respond a little more quickly. But we're working hard to try to make that transition and that differential when you call 911 to be able to get you to the right person as quickly as possible. But we're cognizant that the person on the phone needs help. They don't care whether a brown uniform or a blue uniform shows up. They just want help, and we're trying to get it to them as fast as we can.
I agree. In fact, what we had put in from an experience we had in a shooting that happened in the library about 3 years ago, one of our officers who was working off duty there, two homeless people got into a spat, and it involved a police shooting. What we did was that on all priority calls in that area, that we would both be dispatched, which would be the Miami-Dade Police and the City of Miami. Whoever got there first, it didn't matter for the priority, or what we call signal three type calls. But I will ensure that I work with my communication staff to find a way how we can mediate that information, because as the train goes through the jurisdiction, unfortunately, it's gridded as the City of Miami. The train is this little line in that mapping system. So when the calls come in, it's just showing City Miami. So we're going to work on how we could refine that even more, and we'll have something for that.
Great. We appreciate that. All right. So now I'm going to turn this over to Nancy, because I know you've been watching some of the questions that are coming in, and perhaps you could go through or look for trends in them and see who is the best person to answer them. Thanks, Nancy.
Yeah, thanks everybody. And we do have a lot of questions, and there are themes. I think it would be good to go back to the kind of reporting issues. Some people have talked about the 911 issue, just as was mentioned. Some are mentioning the buttons that you push in the movers themselves. Doesn't seem like those have always been responsive. And then I don't know if everybody saw, but the second poll question about do you report incidents, the majority don't. 70% don't of our poll. So I think it would be helpful to just hear from the police. What is the process? What is the best way for someone to report? And what about those buttons?
That actually, it's important. If we look at our crimes, let's look at the crime trends of that area in terms of the county with the transit component. In a whole year, you'll average probably about 30 incidents that would involve a battery of some sort. So that means if the public, you have 120 people here, and most of them are reporting incidents of fear or fear of violence, and we're only reporting a small number, that means that we have an issue about see something, say something, that we have to do a better job to get that out to the community and refine our components, so that as you would in regular policing districts in the rest of the community where you call 911, it's a lot smoother. We have to tighten that up. And sure, see something, say something, you call the police. Obviously, if we're not there in time and it's a serious situation, we don't want you to stay there and put yourself in jeopardy like we've heard in the other stories. So I think by doing the automation and augmenting the camera system and providing real-time data and apps like Nextdoor and other things like that, we can streamline that component so you don't feel like it's not worth it, not even calling you, leaving, and that person continues that behavior on the transit system. And that can affect our protocols to ensure our staffing at different times of the day where we feel where's the most likelihood of certain types of crimes to happen, like we would in other police districts that we patrol.
So just to be clear, the buttons that are inside the trains themselves, those are those connected to something? Should people push those? Or as Alice was suggesting, Director Bravo, to use the app, do the buttons provide a response?
You know, the button is going to go direct to the control room. In a situation where you don't want to be obvious that you're doing that, that's when you would use the app. So I think either works. It's just a matter of, in a situation where the person wants to be discreet, because obviously when you're pressing a button, you're talking out loud and everybody sees you doing that. So there might be a situation where you want to discreetly report something, and that's when you would use the app.
Okay, that makes sense. That's clear. Okay, and then I know there was a lot of talk about the cameras. So is that going to be a permanent solution, that the camera feed will be live? And then there are a couple of questions about, will there be cameras in other locations? So not just in the Metromover or on the platform, but even in the stairwells. People are mentioning also feeling like around the stations themselves at night or in the stairwells, or people also sometimes don't feel safe.
Yeah. Well, we'll review where we have the cameras right now throughout the system. I think we have like 1,200 cameras. And we're going to put signage that makes it very, very obvious that you're being watched. We want the bad guys to know they're being watched so that they don't think about doing anything harmful to any of our passengers.
Thanks, that's great. And then we have a few questions about follow-up. I think Amal was mentioning that, and a couple of other downtown residents. And I don't know, Director Ramirez, if you would be able to share statistics so that is there reporting that happens, and will the public be able to know, like, since you instituted all these new protocols and additional resources, we'll be able to see results? That's a question that we're getting to.
Absolutely, we could do that. We could upload that to our miami-dade.gov website, where we track our targeted crimes, our ComStat. We can create a report for that for the transit area to show the trends and of what we have in terms of criminal activity in the transit system. Like, for instance, I'll give you year-to-date 2020, our numbers right now. We had 1 robbery, 5 aggravated battery cases, 2 thefts, 27 simple batteries, and 3 criminal mischiefs, with a total of 65 incidents year-to-date on the transit. Now, if you look at 2019, at the same time, we had a total of 50 incidents, at this same date in 2019. And 2019, for the whole year, was a total of 84 incidents on the transit system. And that's not just violent crimes, that's all the different crimes, from criminal mischiefs, the items that I talked about. So if you've seen, that's a low number. If you think about it, if you just go by the stats alone, you're going to put all these costs on these resources. One will say, wow, that's a low number though. What are those people going to be doing all day? The issue is that we need to capture the true reporting of what's going on, so that we can long-term make those numbers smaller and real. You see, so that the real number that you want is that people say, I feel safe on the train. I feel safe on the platform. And that's what we have to strive for.
That's great. Thank you. We're also, as we usually do in District 5, we get a lot of good ideas from our residents, a lot of suggestions, very active and engaged residents, which we couldn't do our job without. So thank you all. A couple of ideas coming up. One is charging a ridership fee an option now or anytime in the future. I don't know if Alice, you would.
Yes. So lifting the fares on the Metromover was part of the approval of the People's Transportation Plan. So that's something that would have to go through certain steps and start at the county commission. In the past, it was discussed, and there's a certain cost with re-implementing the fare collection equipment. We're looking to see what that cost would be today with modern systems like we have the contactless payment, et cetera. But obviously that's a big policy decision for the county.
Right. Thank you. A couple of people have mentioned, and I think we can all, especially Commissioner Higgins, will have some thoughts on this about, how about activating the area more? How about activating the stations more? Of course, now in the pandemic, maybe that's a bit more challenging, but I know in the past, Commissioner Higgins and others have supported Busker Fest, for example. what are thoughts about trying to get things a little more activated?
We love activating the system. We've planned activities, partnered with different groups. Of course, not as many as we'd like to have. One time a couple of times we had the silent disco with everybody in their headphones. And it's really, that's how people get to know the transit system, by planning an event. Certainly we work with developers that are developing next to the Metromover system that helps activate it as well. So that's something that we welcome any and all opportunities to do.
I think there's probably some friends of mine from the DDA. I know, I see you in the attendee list. And so maybe that's something that we can talk about offline, about putting a more comprehensive plan together, recognizing that the pandemic makes it hard or harder to do what we would have done in the past. So Christina, I'll give you a call later in the week on that idea.
There are a lot of comments and questions about homelessness. I know we're not going to solve that issue here today, but I did think it might be useful maybe for Assistant Chief Morales to mention the role that the City of Miami is able to play with that. There's a lot of comments about panhandling and aggressive panhandling. And then on the flip side of that, there are several people commenting we should be trying to help, not just, attack it that way. So I don't want to not acknowledge those voices, but I do think it'll be good to just start with maybe a little better understanding of what can be done to help address things like panhandling, or a lot of maybe people leaving a lot of garbage, and even people are talking about like feces in different areas.
Yeah, and I know that is a sensitive point for many on either side of the argument. From the City of Miami perspective, we do, for the police side, we do not target homeless folks. We are looking for the criminal activity that might be taking place, whether you are housed or homeless. So we address those. We understand that there are certainly those folks that understand, and we do, that those individuals need help. And our purpose is, when we put together these cleanup details and outreach operations, is to try to get as many of those folks that need the help into the continuum of care. When we're going out there with the homeless outreach program, we're trying to get these folks in. And the purpose of the cleanup is, it's not only for the obvious to try to get rid of the blight, but it's actually to improve the sanitary conditions. When you go out there, it's heartbreaking, and you see these folks going out there and the feces and the urine. Those folks are human beings, and they're still living in those conditions. And some of them, they can't help it. They are conditions that impact them beyond our common knowledge, that cause them to be in that situation. And we gotta approach this from a human side. So I've been looking at the chat and some of the questions, and I've definitely written down some of the concerns about the issues of the panhandlers, and not only on the Brickell City Center platform, as I saw, and the 3rd Street. So that's information that we'll send down to our commander, not only Commander Reguera in downtown, Commander Ellington in Brickell, but also Commander Cruz up in Edgewater. But our operations, we usually put them together once every other week, where we bring in solid waste, public works, our neighborhood enhancements team, and our homeless outreach, along with police officers, to offer those services and do the cleanup as well, to make sure that we maintain sanitary conditions.
Thank you so much. Maggie is going to ask a couple of questions now.
Okay, yeah, I've been also, hi everybody, thank you for participating. But I've been looking through the question and answers, and I see a certain theme, and it's really focused on security at the Metromover stations and on the platforms. People are wondering where these cameras are. Are they just on the platform? Are they on the lower level? Are they by the elevators? Are they by the escalators? where they're being watched. Alice had mentioned about a control room, but there's questions like, what is this control room, and how are they going to monitor 1,200 cameras at one time? So they want to understand like what that looks like. How is the transit department and all these cameras going to interface with the police department? What's the app? I think what I sense from the Q&A is they want to know, like, if they need immediate help, they want immediate help to come. That it takes, right now, it just currently takes too long. When you press the button, you go to the control room. This is what happened to Higgins and I and a fellow coworker. We have to call 911 separately. It's kind of too late, if something like this is happening real time and you have to like open up an app to press, I'm getting beat up or something. So I think that a lot of the residents and a lot of the participants are really looking for answers around those types of questions. And I don't know who's the best person to answer or to explain, but if somebody can try to address that, that'd be great.
Right. So we basically have a control room. We have a transit control room where both the Metrorail and the Metromover systems are operated. And just like you would have a security control room at the mall or at the airport, you have people that are viewing the cameras, and the cameras are rotating through different scenes, and that's how you monitor what's happening. So with the software that I mentioned, we're going to use artificial intelligence to detect incidents, and that way an alarm goes off rather than relying on a human to scroll through and see the incident. This is a technology that's being used everywhere. It's used for when someone abandons a suspicious package. In other countries, it's used for other purposes, obviously, but that's our goal with technology, to bring the best tools possible to this situation.
So, excuse me if I could, Commissioner. Chief Ramirez, could you explain a little bit how the Real-Time Crime Center works, and explain the technology and the fact that it's a 24/7 operation?
Yes, absolutely. Our Real-Time Crime Center is a 24-hour operation where we service a whole bunch of, I would say, we provide data information for officers on the road. We monitor cameras on areas that we have MOUs on. We have it in some of our HUD locations, as well as some other businesses and strategic street corners as well, that I can't get too specific with, to assist us with our gun violence initiatives as well. So the cameras that would be feeding that information to our Real-Time Crime Center will be part of that big screen that we have there that has all the different cameras and information. So, and if, let's say, something were to happen in a particular part of that train, our officers at the Real-Time Crime Center, our analysts, will immediately be able to pop up that and get real-time assessment. So as the officers are dispatched to the area, they have a situational awareness so that they can address the situation quickly and swiftly. That's how it would work in a nutshell.
Thank you. Nancy or Maggie, are you seeing other question trends that need to be brought up?
I'm trying to get the app linked somewhere. A lot of people would like to know the name of the app, where they can get it.
I mean, my takeaway from I have a little list of takeaways, but my takeaway for our to-do list is we have to get, particularly for our neighborhood associations and for our friends at the DDA, right? We've got a giant email list. We've got to do a tutorial on this app and spread the word about this app to Metromover and Metrorail riders. And then, quite frankly, a lot of our mover riders are working on the construction sites. So we need to also work with the Builders Association of South Florida to make sure that the workers that are arriving every day for our construction projects, most of whom are riding the mover, are also aware of that app. So that's that. That's on our to-do list, Nancy, man.
I'm
Maggie.
taking notes. I'm taking notes.
Oh.
If I could, the app is called Transit Watch, and it's also been rolled into the Go Miami-Dade app.
Right.
Thank you. I'm having a hard time. Oh. Can you hear me? I froze.
We can hear you.
Okay, my internet has been unstable. Always a lot of fun. A lot of folks are, I think really there's still a lot of questions about homeless and treatment for homeless and how we can address that. And we knew that would happen. We know that's an issue. We hear about it here in District 5, especially from our downtown and Brickell residents. So I think that is an issue where we're going to need more time than this hour-long meeting. I know, Commissioner, you really want to give updates right now to people, given the sort of critical nature of what happened. But I don't know if there's other thoughts you'd like to say about that and sort of lead us out, because we're kind of coming to the end of our time right now.
So first of all, to everyone that's joined us, both the residents, the riders, and our county team, thank you very much. I really appreciate particularly all the law enforcement folks here that took the time out to explain how rapidly you were adapting to what the community was asking for in light of the recent increase in attacks. And also, in fact, due to COVID, sometimes there are less riders on the mover, and so our riders are more likely to be alone in that situation than they might have been 7 or 8 months ago. But I think based on the ideas, because we haven't gotten to, just for you Q&A folks, we get a record of that. So if we haven't answered your questions, we will be able to get back to you individually. But also there were a lot of ideas that do require investigation. Should we be collecting fares? Would that, that would provide an entrance and an exit. There's pros and cons to that, right? The pros is obviously the Metromover is free. Everybody loves that. The cons are it's a lot, anybody can get up there, right? There's no impediment to sort of getting up there. I think we, I will be through legislation making sure that the plans for security from the Metromover just don't change, as Amal mentioned, but that it is steady and it is always based on that. We are going to need you all to report what's happening, or we'll never know, right? As our chief said, we're never going to know if we continue as residents riding the mover and thinking, that's not that big a deal. The cumulative effect of that is we have many riders that don't feel particularly comfortable on the mover, and if they're not comfortable on the mover, in the end, transit is not used. We want transit to be used for all kinds of reasons. It's good for the environment. It gets cars off the streets, right? All the other things we like to complain about. But the county owes you a safe experience, and we're thrilled to see the even stronger collaboration between the city and the county police departments. I already got a text from our friends at the DDA, and so we'll start thinking about perhaps some activation plans. And then I'll promise you all that I will make sure that I tour all of the new centers to see how these cameras are feeding in and how that is being managed, as well as the AI component of being smart as it's flashing through the images, so that we can make sure that the mover is always safe for the residents. In the meanwhile, I think you all know how to reach us, District 5, the number 5, at miamidade.gov. Please feel free to reach out with other ideas or suggestions. We're happy that you see, a big chunk of our team was on here tonight. And by the way, our police department, both our police departments can't have all the solutions if they don't have all the information. And so they need you whether it's through our office or directly reach out to them, because as the director says, if he doesn't know, he doesn't know. And so we are going to be depending on all of you and all of us that ride the mover. So thanks for your time. Thanks to everyone that presented, our deputy mayors, our chiefs, Director Bravo, Major Melko. We just appreciate your time for being with us tonight, sharing what we've done in the past week with the residents, and then we'll keep discussing and collaborating. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks everyone for coming.